Hi, folks. This is Mark Smith with Family Tree Life Coaches. And we have a new show and we have a new life coach who's going to break down some wisdom and drop some knowledge on you. Her name is James Bond or Angie Bond. I just had to work that in there.
Yeah, I've never heard that.
You've never heard that before. It's the first time. Our show is called Angie and Mark's Hit Show, and the hit is what do you call those? Acronyms?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
H stands for the underpinnings of our philosophy in this show is about honesty and about having integrity and about having transparency. We're not suggesting it's going to be a hit show and go viral and make us world famous. That isn't where we were going. It'd be nice if it happened, but it's more about honesty, integrity, and transparency. So today we're going to be talking about a topic that Angie is a worldwide expert in, and that's overfunctioning. But first, Angie's going to introduce herself. She's going to talk about her vision as a life coach, and she's going to talk a little bit about overfunctioning. And I'm thinking about eating my sandwich while she does it. So go ahead, Angie.
Okay. Hey, I'm Angie Bond. Just a little bit about me. I live south of Nashville, Tennessee, and I'm a mother of 5 now adult children. And also a mother of 3 non-adult dogs. So hopefully they'll be quiet while we're recording. But yeah, I've been through a lot in my life, and and it's difficult to go through things. Everybody wants a happy life. Nobody wants to go through adversity. But whenever I did go through adversity, from a young age, I always felt like, well, if I can share my story and help somebody else, then that's what I want to do. So I've always been very open, very honest, very transparent, which is, why the show will hopefully, let me tell my story and help others. And, as far as things I've been through, like I said, I do want to help people. So I have been through a plethora of issues.
Nice word there.
Thank you. That'll be the largest one of the show.
An acronym was good too.
Okay. Well, I went to Purdue, so
I did too.
Yeah.
Hey, we're 2 Purdue people.
We are. Well, yeah, my one big word, again, abandonment was probably my first issue that just launched off my life. But I've also had either direct or very close indirect experience with suicide, marital affairs, divorce, miscarriage, abortion. I have a list. Step parenting, remarriage, rage addiction, alcohol addiction, sexual discrimination, job loss, and the big one was personal loss of a child. So that's kind of my, rundown of topics that I have had experience with and could probably give some insight or help people along a path of going through that type of thing.
Did I just mute myself?
You are muted now.
Unmute.
Okay.
I'm a bit of an underfunctioner with technology, if the truth be known. I started to have some small meetings for people who were interested in becoming life coaches. And just like in basketball and in football or in math, sometimes people just have natural talent. So I picked up on Angie's talent right away because I would throw things open up to feedback about a particular issue or couple or family. And she pretty much was spot on every time. very little of what I use in my day-to-day practice I learned back in 1985 through 87 at Michigan State University, studying clinical social work. Probably 5% of what I've learned. The rest of it has been life and working on my own issues and doing my own therapy and what clients have taught me, plus reading a lot of books. Um, so we decided that we would hone in on Angie's wheelhouse, of, and it's something that really doesn't get spoken about a lot, and it's being an over functioner, which I think women tend to be more over functioners than men, it seems. So tell the story, of being an over functioner. What is it, and how have you experienced it, and how is it hurtful? And go with it.
Okay. Well, I guess to start with, I would like to kind of address over functioner and overachiever are two different things. I overfunction. I don't necessarily overachieve. Um, overachiever is, straight A student. I feel like a CEO of a company. I've never done any of those things. Well, I have gotten straight A's a couple times, but not. It's been a few years. But and I think there are probably different ways that you become an overfunctioner. But whenever there is an overfunctioner in a relationship, there is then an underfunctioner, and that so I guess in my childhood, apparently, um, I either was or felt like I was with underfunctioning people, so I became an overfunctioner. Um, so at age 7, my mom, who passed away this May, but at age 7, she walked out on our family. And I was 7, and I was holding my baby sister. And at that point, I felt like, um, our mom left, so I was going to have to take care of my sister. I remember holding her and saying, "Don't worry, I'll take care of you." Now that in reality, I didn't have to take care of her, but it kind of just clicked something over in my mind that made me overly responsible at a very young age. And then throughout my life, like growing up, I didn't, I lived with my dad for a while. So he was a single dad in the early 70s with 2 young daughters, which is not a typical scenario. Um, I lived with my mom some. My mom wasn't the most stable of people. And so then I would choose, fortunately, that to live with my maternal grandparents. But, I kind of bounced around a lot. So I didn't ever really have a super stable home base, as many kids do. And so I felt like I kind of had to take care of myself and take matters into my own hands. Um, even as far as manipulating people to make sure my needs were met, I would say, not maliciously manipulating, but you're muted. So I don't know if you're trying to say something, Mark.
I'm seeing if people can read my lips.
Okay. Well, I can't.
I was just saying right, that it
Okay.
wasn't malicious form of manipulation. It was just how you learn to get some of your needs met.
Right. Um, and so, and yeah, I started working at a young age, with my dad. My family had a landscape business. So I started working at a young age. So I'd have money, to buy things that I felt like I needed. Worked in a family business then. And family business was run by my paternal grandfather. And I was very close to him. And for my 16th birthday, they came over to the house and my grandmother said, "Oh, your grandfather went shopping and bought you your birthday present." And I was in shock because that's something he would never have done. He just didn't go shopping. And I remember it to this day. And 3 weeks later, he committed suicide.
Wow.
So, he was planning it, obviously, because I was his first and, probably the closest grandchild to him. Um, and that was devastating. So that was really my second huge abandonment in my life. Um, so then, life goes on, and we, keep trudging through. I went to college, not the college of my choice, but went to Purdue, which I love,
Purdue
by the way.
wasn't the college of your choice.
I wanted to go. I wanted to go to Northeastern University in Boston, to study landscape architecture.
Oh.
But that was kind of taken off the table for me, and went to the basically hometown school. But I'm a huge Boiler fan, so Boiler up to the men's basketball team right now. Um, so went through college. I guess I had to, I didn't have a lot of financial support through college, so I worked 2 to 3 jobs to kind of get through. And by the time my junior year rolled around, I was pretty much tired of taking care of myself, and I remember my aunt worked, and she was having a Christmas party for some people that she worked with, invited me to come over. And I was talking to my roommate at the time, and I said, I'm going to meet my husband at this party.
You really say that?
Oh, yeah, I did. Because I'm like, okay, here's people that are making money, and I just wanted someone to take care of me. And so I went to the party, and I met my first husband.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
So financially, he could take care of you. I bet he wasn't maybe good in other areas.
No, no, emotionally, uh, could not take care of me. We were two totally different people. We should have never have gotten married. But we were married. Since I came from such a bad divorced family, I mean, there was just so much drama around that divorce, that I didn't really want to ever go through a divorce. And his family, there had never been divorce. Um, so we, kind of limped along in this relationship for a few years. And then our friends started having kids. So that sounded like a good idea,
Right.
right?
Right.
Um, so ended up, when I was pregnant with our first child, he ended up having an affair. And I, like I said, did not, especially now with a child, definitely did not want to put a child through divorce. Um, so we went to counseling. Counselor said, you know, get a divorce. But I didn't. We stayed married for 13 years, had 2 more children. And again, it was abandonment on a daily basis emotionally. I was married, but at least I felt like a single mom. He worked, he had his like softball activities, and I kind of ran the kids around and did everything at home. But I was again unfulfilled, and kind of volunteered myself to death at church, running vacation Bible schools and children's programs and things like that.
Overfunctioners do tend to volunteer a lot.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And then I'm pretty much, as an overfunctioner and not an overachiever, I don't have a career. I'm a stay at home mom who is volunteering.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so then, desperate to really get out of this marriage that I was in, I ended up having an affair, which I didn't think I would ever do. But, and besides that, I became pregnant with twins from this affair. And yeah, I think subconsciously I probably wanted to become pregnant, thinking it would be an out. of that.
It turned out to be an out.
Yeah, in the long run, it did. So now I have children 8, 6, 4, and baby boy girl twins, and I'm a single mom who
Wow.
who hasn't worked.
You better go to functioning pretty highly.
Well, yeah. So because I needed to really keep the house for the kids, because where would I find an apartment for 5 kids? I just didn't see that was going to work. So, I mean, I was fortunate in landing a marketing position with a company that was flexible, and I had some neighbors that helped because I didn't have any family in the area. But I made it, um, and but then married again after a short 6-month long distance relationship to a man that had a son, and then I became a stepmom. So now I am a mother of 6 children. We're both working, and he is rage addicted. So again,
Which is a form of being a child. I mean, when you're raging, you're sort of in your child part.
mhm. So when I thought I was once again getting someone to take care of me, it was in fact the exact opposite.
That seems to have backfired on you several times. Let me throw some concepts in real quick. So this first 2 are somebody who's a really healthy person. I don't know too many of them, but the parent part is work hard, do the dishes, floss your teeth, go to church, pay your tithes, all the study hard, all the responsible stuff. And the kid part is lay on the couch and eat. I don't know what overcame me this week when I went to Costco. I bought one of those big jars of Jelly Bellies, this big. And dear God, I'm just, I can feel the pounds just oozing. That would be the kid. The adult did not buy the Jelly Bellies. So what we're talking about is an overfunctioner who has a too big of a parent because they weren't parented. They turned out to be a parent to their parents or a parent to their younger siblings or a parent to themselves. So Paulie's barking because he wants my Reuben sandwich. He's not going to get it. And then little bitty kid part, because these people are busy taking care of business, mainly surviving. Who do these people marry? They marry, if it's a woman, they marry a little boy, somebody with a little parent and a big kid. And this is like karma. It's like I've worked with women from 23 to 73 who had the big parent and the little kid, and they're always married to little boys, even if it's a 73-year-old little boy. And the one thing that sticks out, 2 things. One is exhaustion, and the other is they're old in their spirit. Even if they're 23, they're old in their spirit. They're old souls. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes. Yeah. Well, that was kind of what I was going to say, because here at the end of this, and of course, I'm divorced again and have been for, I don't know, 12 years. Yeah, I'm exhausted. My youngest twins, they graduated about 3 years ago from high school. And I'm just so relieved, honestly, so relieved, because that pressure, I mean, they're adults. And the, I guess, legal pressure, at least, for me to raise these kids and get them through school and try to keep their fathers happy with how they're doing. There's just so much pressure on me. So I felt like that, at least that was off. But being an overfunctioner, I now have for fairly under functioning kids.
Aha. So this thing I just showed not only works with husbands, but it works with kids because it works unconsciously. Let me tell you a real quick story that illustrates that. In my first marriage, this was before GPS on phones, and I would be the driver, but my wife was a lot better at navigation. There were times I'd get in the car, the kids, the wife, and I'd drive 5 or 6 blocks. She goes, "Where are you going?" And I said, "Oh no," because when I got in the car, my brain shut off. I
Mm.
learned to underfunction because that was her job. Now, if I got in the car and I looked around and nobody was there, I'm like, if I don't do some thinking, I'm never going to get to where I'm going. And I usually could get anywhere in the city without too much trouble. But that's an example of if you overfunction, everybody else is just going to shut off and not think.
Mm-hmm. Right. And because you're over functioning and you're tired, as a mother, you don't have the energy
It's a
to make your
mother.
kids function. You're just like, I'll just do it myself.
It's easier to do it yourself, isn't it?
It is. It is easier to do it yourself, but it just perpetuates the problem. And even now, as adults, and Mike, I have great kids. I'm not saying they're not, they have jobs. They just didn't finish college. One is trying to finish college right now, but they're just in their, I don't know, fairly low paying jobs, making their way. And now I have to set boundaries because for me, it's easy to lay awake at night and think, oh, I wonder if he's taking care of his car. What if his car breaks down? You know,
Right.
what is he going to do? And
Right.
I don't want to be his
That
overfunctioner mom.
that's the other thing is with overfunctioners, they worry more and care more about the other person's problems than that person cares about their own problems generally.
Yeah. I read a list of signs you might be an overfunctioner. And one was, are you making goals for somebody to make those goals for themselves?
Here are the goals I have for you.
Yes.
I hope you
Hand
can
out
meet them.
lists of goals for my kids.
Yeah, yeah.
But, in also in becoming an overfunctioner, I'm a planner. I plan. And I love to mark things off my list,
Isn't that
because
fun to get to the last thing on the list and mark that rascal off?
it is.
Ah,
But because I'm a planner and mark it off the list, sometimes I can be compulsive just to get it done and maybe not do it, completely the right way or do it half-assed. Um, that's where an overfunctioner is not an overachiever again. Um, and then because I'm a planner, I'm very resistant to changing plans, that I have to really take a step back.
the universe has a way sometimes of stepping in and causing chaos, especially if you're in an airport, it seems like. But what that is about is if you grow up with under-functioning parents. My parents had 7 children. They shouldn't have even had a couple of goldfish. They were, to call them inept is praising them too highly. And so when there's that many kids and that little leadership, there's a lot of chaos. And the last thing an overfunctioning person can stand is chaos. Chaos is undone tasks, bills not paid, clutter, and then plans that go awry.
Right.
You want to tell? See, I'm both. I'm both an overfunctioner and an underfunctioner. Um, when I was a kid, I did a lot of over functioning, and in running my practice for 33 years, I've done some over functioning. But I'm a bit a bit of a bubblehead. So did you want to tell a story about this meeting today and how
Oh, I would love to.
somebody underfunctioned and it didn't go off very well?
Yeah, well, yeah. So, our meeting was originally scheduled for 1 o'clock my
Oh,
time,
1 o'clock your
6
time.
o'clock your time. And so I'm getting ready for it. And then I check my email and realize that Mark has emailed me like a meeting agenda that I hadn't seen, and it was almost ready to start.
See, you're supposed
So,
to really be able to read my mind is
yeah.
how the thinking goes there.
And that freaked me out because then, of course, I couldn't get my printer to print. And so I'm freaking.
Oh my God.
Then I'm logging on to the meeting, and it's like, that meeting is over. And I call, anyway, we finally started.
But it took
And I
us
did,
it took us an hour. Well, I was late a half an hour and it
yeah.
took us half an hour to figure it out.
Yeah. So here we are, but I'm okay now. I'm fine.
Sometimes if you grow up as an overfunctioner and if you have a whole ton on your plate, you don't pay attention to details.
Right.
And I do think that this may sound like a sexist comment, and I hope nobody's offended, but I do think that women tend to be better at paying attention to details. I told my story. I had surgery 3 weeks ago, and I'm not in a relationship. Always before, when I've had surgery, I've had some nice lady drive me there, read all of the literature, get the medication, and basically baby and take care of me. I didn't have that. And there was this little tiny fine print. It was probably like this big. After surgery, it turns out you're supposed to eat Jello and crackers. Well, I missed that part, and it was a late in the day surgery. I was starving, so I had onion rings, pasta, and chicken. And at 3 o'clock in the morning, I was laying down, and I was like, it was like a big whale where you vomit straight up, and then it came back down, and I couldn't breathe. I was drowning in my vomit, and then I thought, if I turn my head this way, then I won't get splashed out. So that's a good example of what can happen if you don't pay attention to important details. It's
Yeah.
painful.
Yes. But then I guess what brings us to today is, I am in a relationship with another under functioner, and got to the point where I'm like, if we don't get some counseling, I don't want to be in this relationship. And that's how I met Mark, and really started to heal from my abandonment issues. It's a journey. I don't think you're ever going to fully heal from abandonment. I don't think I will, but being able to put it into perspective and
Right.
start putting the over functioning
Right.
due to the abandonment issues
Right.
in perspective.
Right. One thing I want to say about exhaustion, and people aren't seeing your exhaustion maybe just right at this moment, what it looks like, because it's a new show, you're sort of energized, but I've seen Angie when she's just on her last thread, man. She's just over it, and just tired looking kind of thing. But one thing people don't understand, I got this from my favorite poet, David Whyte, is what's the cure for exhaustion? It's not rest. Some my mother would occasionally, we couldn't afford vacations. She would occasionally talk her psychiatrist into sending her what we called the roundhouse, because in Kokomo it was around, the psychiatric hospital was, and she took it as a vacation. People served her food. There were crafts, and she made new friends. So yeah. So, but rest, You can take an overfunctioner and they can go on vacation and lay on a beach for a week, and they do feel better, but it really doesn't solve their problem, because the cure for exhaustion is actually wholeheartedness. And if you're doing somebody else's work and you resent it, if you're allowing yourself to be used and you resent it, if you're working yourself into the ground, you really can't be wholehearted with it. It can't be a joy. If you just do you and you do you well, that can be really fun. But if you do 7 people and you, it's an exhaustion that can hardly be put into words.
It is. And and I'm still working on that. Like I said, I have adult children, and I have no desire to be a grandparent. A lot of I'm like,
Here, Grandma, take the baby.
Please no grandchildren. Yes.
Okay.
I'm that odd bird, but that's what overfunctioning exhaustion leads to, I believe.
Even the fun things that, like having a grandchild, that most people would be doing cartwheels over, you're so burned out and depleted. You're like, I love this baby, but dear God, don't go on vacation and leave this screaming infant with me for a week.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. So the good things about becoming an overfunctioner makes you tough, doesn't it?
Oh, yes.
It makes you very resilient.
Mm-hmm.
It makes you sometimes you have to overcome insecurity, but it could make you pretty confident. And you always have the ability to put food on the table.
Mm-hmm.
So there are some positives to it, but it makes life not that much fun, and just makes life really hard.
Right. I have, as the kids have gotten older, I have started to take care of myself and really tune in to the things that feed my soul. Still, I wouldn't still wouldn't call life fun, and I am stressed and overworked at this point in my life, but I have learned to at least take care of myself.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
And obviously, I am the only person that's going to take care of myself.
Nobody else is going to do it for you. Your neighbor down the street isn't going to say, hey, I noticed that you were tired the other day. Why don't I come over and cook dinner for your family while you go to the movies? That's not going to happen, probably.
No, probably not.
No. So what would you say to a woman with 3 or 4 small children and an under-functioning little boy husband? What would you say to her?
Well, I mean, first of all, I would suggest counseling. I mean, everybody needs guidance in their life. And if it's for a period or if it's for long term, I mean, that I think certainly would have helped me. But a second would be to set boundaries. I mean, if they set them with your husband, set them with your children, take care.
What is a boundary? People say that, set a boundary, and few people know what one actually is.
Now, of course, I'm not going to get that definition perfect, but a boundary is setting an expectation for another person with consequences if that expectation is not met.
I'd say that's pretty good.
Is it good? Okay.
Yeah. See, most people leave off the consequences.
Right. You have to have a consequence. They've got to know that up front. And the hardest part is sticking to it. You've got to stick to the consequence. You've got to enforce that boundary. That is the only way you're going to have peace at night and be able to sleep. The only way you're not going to be completely exhausted when all your kids are finally out of the house.
Yeah. Yeah. Exhausted and filled with resentment is not a good combination.
Mm.
So, what I would say to those people, and what I have said to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them through the years, the first thing I do is try to eliminate victim mentality. Because when they come in, it looks to them as if their husband, their boss, and their children and their siblings all of them are conspiring to take advantage of this poor woman, and that she's a victim of those circumstances. And I shatter those illusions and say, there isn't anybody that can take advantage of you without your full cooperation and support. And if you feel taken advantage of and victimized, you need to go into the bathroom and look in the mirror, have a meeting with the problem, because the problem is always yourself, and it traces back to over functioning as a child. I I didn't remember about the with holding your sister when you were 7,
Mhm.
but I too I was the mother of an infant girl when I was a 10-year-old boy, and pretty much bonded with her and took care of her as if she were my baby.
Mhm.
And that's and then when I got into work, then I tended to overfunction along the way. The other thing I would do is to read this book that we've been talking about, Untamed, because it'll put a little fire in your belly. It encourages you not to medicate your pain with jelly bellies, although those are pretty good, but don't medicate your pain with television or drugs or alcohol or whatever. Feel the pain is the ticket to a sense of self. Um, Understand that life is supposed to be really, really hard, but for an functioner, it's really not meant to be as hard as you make it. Your own programming and brainwashing from your childhood causes you to make it even harder than it already is. The other thing it talks about in there is a sense of knowing. You know yourself, you know your partner, and as a over functioning person slowly learns how to drop the ball and not care about it and chillax, which is really hard. You want to grab the ball again. I don't want it to be rolling around. Um, then, then the work that the underfunctioning person does is they grow up, and it's not always the female who's the overfunctioner, but many times it is. But there are a lot of men that they have to learn how to grow up and be adults. I have this little sign in my dresser, and it says, "I can't adult today." And I've been on such a roll with magnificent, um, unusual for me adulting, that I put the sign away. I didn't need it anymore because I was adulting every way, every day, like a grown up person. But today I was struggling a little bit. I reached in there and pulled it out and just set it on the dresser again. I'm having a hard time, but the metaphor that the author of Untamed gives for a strong woman who loves herself, who has boundaries, who has direction, who has integrity, who has transparency, who has strength, is a cheetah.
Mhm.
And cheetahs are powerful animals. It's not just a cheetah. She says it's a goddamn cheetah. A little more emphasis there to the strength of this person as they mellow and as they learn how to give over responsibility. Then they actually become more powerful as people.
Mhm. Uh, and our other book, the first book, Love Warrior, that I read prior to this. Of course, I have a lot of quotes from there too, but one thing she says in it is pain is not tragic, pain is magic.
Ooh, I love that.
Well, and here the follow-up sentence is suffering is tragic. And that's what overfunctioners do.
See, that's brilliant. And that kind of suffering when you've done it for 30 straight years is beyond tragic. Uh,
Right.
here's another under functioning story. Um, I read this book, Untamed, and I've been making videos about it and telling all my clients, jumping up and down, carrying on with myself. And the author is Glennon Doyle. And Angie said, Mark, tell him what you said to me.
I said, I told you about Glennon Doyle weeks ago, and he's claiming that he found this author magically.
McFly.
So yeah, he did give me some backhanded credit for it later, but she's an amazing writer that's raw and open and transparent and speaks the truth.
And
so,
she empowers women.
yes.
And an over functioning woman needs to learn how to love herself, needs to learn how to nurture herself, needs to learn how to play,
Mm-hmm.
needs to learn how to rest, and needs to learn how to, she calls it, let it burn. I love that. You know, something that's peripheral or unhealthy in your life that people still expect. Think of a bonfire. It's like you take your over functioning and you drop it in a bonfire and you go dancing around the bonfire. I just love that phrase, let it burn,
Right.
let it go.
Yeah. That's let your thoughts go, your obsessions that you have at 3 a.m. Let them go.
Yeah. Now it ain't easy, is it? Because
No.
it's sort of your nature, and
Mm-hmm.
that's what the recovery process is it's changing, slowly re-engineering and rewiring your very nature,
Mm-hmm.
so to become a person who is individuated, who has boundaries, who has joy, who can be playful, who doesn't have resentment. Um, this is the first time that I've used Zoom, and I'm not good with it. And Angie was very, very patient with my lack of competency. Now, next time, if I'm just as not good with it, she might call me on it. But
I'm
uh,
gonna try not to, Mark. I mean,
yeah,
just as I think it would be so easy for a little boy to grow up. It's just as difficult for them to grow up as it is for me to not adult. Like I would never have that sign in my house, but I probably need it.
right,
I
right.
can't adult today. That would be great.
Yeah, I empathize with little boys who struggle with growing up because I functioned pretty well until I went through a shattering in 2015. And then I literally became a little boy who couldn't really function well at all. And I had a woman come into my life that sort of functioned for me. And eventually, oddly enough, she got tired of doing everything for me. So I've been left to my own devices, and now I have to do everything for myself. And it feels good. It feels good to be, you're not always, I don't always get all the things checked off my list, but I'm a competent adult, and little boys can grow up and be grown up men. And when you do, you feel like a goddamn cheetah. You feel, whoo, I got the groceries done today. I did the laundry, you know?
Okay. Yeah. Good. I'm glad you're feeling that way, Mark.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, do you have anything else that you wanted to say, Angie, about yourself or about this topic? Hey, if you want to meet with, if you're a woman who's an overfunctioner and you want to take advantage of Angie's lifetime of experience of studying under overfunctioning from a very close up angle, how can they reach you, Angie?
Well, my email, and I spell my name unusually, so it's angiebond at Gmail. It is spelled Anjie instead of a G. So just angiebond at gmail.com.
That's really easy to remember.
That'd be a great way to reach out.
Yeah,
Love to help somebody not go down this long, hard path. So,
yeah. I like it when I run into 32-year-old overfunctioners.
mhm,
When I run into 62-year-old overfunctioners, there's something dead inside them. If they haven't been in recovery,
mhm,
something just sort of shrivels up and dies, and it's hard to sort of put any energy in their spirit because it's been so long since they've had that positive energy for themselves.
right.
So, well, we're going to try to meet about once a week. I don't know which days, probably either Mondays or Wednesdays, I would imagine, or maybe even a Saturday. We haven't even talked about these things, have
Really, yeah.
we?
We're just going with the flow. That's
We're
what I do.
going with the flow. That's what you do because you don't have to plan everything. You just
I know.
ride with the flow. But yeah, this is Angie's gonna pick the topics, and it's things that she's struggled with as somebody mature in recovery who's come a long way, who has a lot of strength, and who's starting to have some joy and some connection and relationship. And I'm just gonna maybe throw in a few clinical facts and try to ask some good questions, but I'm trying to help her help you out there.
Right. So if there's anything somebody wants to explore, could also email a suggestion to us. So
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, hey, this was fun, this was good. I wonder where you press the button to start. There it is. Okay. Every time I say something stupid, she giggles. Okay. God bless y'all, and start out by reading that book Untamed. And if you're one of these people that we're talking about, get a hold of Angie at her email. So thanks for watching.
bye. Thank you.